Good day everyone, GarageKing here, and today we have a 6th generation Hyundai Elantra, so that's 2017 to 2020. We're going to do the front brakes on this vehicle, and it's very important to have a good front brake job because you may encounter this.
Whoa, that was close.
So if we do our brake job just perfect, our car should stop just like Flanders. Now get out your 14mm because that's the size you need to undo the 2 top bolts for your caliper. We're going to give it a wiggle out. Once we pull it out like this, let's take a pan in around, let's see what's going on, and take a look at this. You can see there we got a little bit of pad, so it's not too bad. However, yikes, not good there, absolutely nothing. So it'll be interesting to see how the rotor surface is on the inside once we take those pads out.
Check this out.
So yeah, not bad on this side. We do have a little bit of life left. However, look at the other side. Yikes. Yep, you are right. This pad is definitely going to cause some rotor wear. Now, if we check the pins, we can see I can push them nice and easy, so that's good. That'll make our job a little bit easier. We won't have to fight with those. Now, here's my favorite tool. This tool just pushes the piston in nice and straight. There's no binding, so it is absolutely awesome. Definitely a good tool to have. 17mm. That's what we need. So next up is the 2 Phillips number 3 bolts that just hold that rotor in place. I use an impact gun. I find it's the easiest way to get them off, but you can get other type of impact tools. And hopefully, if whoever put them in last time did not put them in that tight, you should be able to get them out pretty easy. Now the rotors are usually fairly stiff. You can see here a couple whacks with a dead blow hammer, and I was able to get it off. So let's take a quick look at the rotor surface, and we can see the surface has what looks to be the rings of Saturn. Now that would be fine if this was a science show, but you know what? It's an automotive show, and we're not talking about the universe. So you know, we can definitely see the damage that pad did. Cleaning the hub is our next step, and you know what? It is a pain to do it with the wire wheel. I'm thinking of buying this Hub Buddy tool off Amazon. If anyone has ever bought one and used it and liked it, let me know. I'd appreciate that in the comments. Also, of course, make sure you wear something to protect your lungs. Now, next up, we are going to clean the actual caliper. The corrosion here, you know, it's really not that bad, but if it is bad and you do have a lot of rust, these Muller Cups tools here, these files that you can see, top left-hand corner that I'm showing, they work like a charm to take off rust. So they are designed specifically for calipers, and they're available on Amazon. They're actually not that expensive. So now when you pinch these, the rubber you can see, I'll zoom in there, see how it's, I don't know, grabbing this or whatever. You don't want to twist them too hard or you might actually crack the rubber. So what you want to do is hold the rubber and then give it a twist here, and you can see I broke the seal, and now, anyway, I can pull these out. And we like to do them one at a time, because this way we don't confuse them, because as you can see, they're probably going to be different. So first one here, you can see it's got a little bit of rubber on the end, just like so, a little bit of rubber. These ones were nice, they weren't dry. So what we can do is we have our caliper lube, we're just gonna lube them back up, and then put them back in. And you'll see there's little divots in there. You want to make sure those are full of caliper lube. There's one, and now we're going to do the other one. Same thing, we're going to hold this, twist it to break the seal. There we go, we pulled it out. And this one does look a little different, guys. Take a look at this. It's actually got flat spots, and there's no rubber on it. And sometimes you gotta hold it like this, just hold it in. There we go. And then the air will just sort of make its way through and pop out. There you go. Perfect. I just have some anti-seize, and what I'm gonna do is on the insides here, I'm just gonna put a little bit of anti-seize. Just like so, guys. Just stops it from rusting up. Or prevents it anyway. It tries to slow it down. Nothing really stops rust, but it can slow it down a little bit.
3, 2, 1.
Okay, now here I have the old one, not even gonna bother cleaning it, and I have the new one. Always compare them, make sure they're the exact same size, because tons of times I have to clean the old ones and reuse them because they're not the same size. So these ones are, so that's great, they will work, but little tip, guys. Same thing, we're gonna take our little bit of anti-seize brush, we're just gonna put a little bit of anti-seize on this, just like this, just so our pads will slide nicely. Now remember, the outside pads have these 2 things here. They're standing up. And the inside pad, smooth in the middle here, so the caliper piston can go there. And actually you have, I don't know what you want to call it there, the squealer, indicator, whatever you want to call it. So let's make sure that our pads fit okay. There we go. They slide nice. Look at that. Ready to go. Now what we can also do, as you see here, I have a little bit of brake stop squeal. Just going to put a little bit on the rear pad here. This is going to hit the caliper piston, and what that's going to do is prevent squealing. Put a little bit here, and then the outer pad here is about here, we're going to guess, but here's where I think the caliper is going to hit. We'll see how close I am. Anyway, that's where I think it's going to hit. So it's time to do some art now. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to paint the hub with some anti-seize just to protect it from future corrosion. So we have our new rotor. Make sure you line up the holes there for the 2 set screws. Number 3 Phillips. Not going to use the impact gun to put it on. We're just going to use just hand tight. They're just set screws. They don't go very tight. Whoop. So when tightening these bolts here, they really don't have to be tight at all. The rotor's actually held on by the lug nuts that hold the whole wheel on. So this is just sort of for alignment purposes, you know, when you're taking it apart. That's all it's there for, so it really doesn't have to be tight. Now we have our pads preloaded into the caliper housing. Whoa, almost lost in there, guys. We got our 17 again, Mr. 17 socket. Make sure it's on. I don't tighten it up all the way, I just sort of snug it up and then I'll go to the bottom one, right down there. And the reason I do this is just to ensure that the caliper bracket is in fact centered, because the last thing you want to do is reef it all down and then it's not centered. So that's the reason I do that, and there's the torque specs for you. Now next up, we're gonna put our caliper back, just like so. Give these a little push. Now it's time to torque the caliper to the caliper bracket bolts, and you can see here factory specs are 16 to 23 foot-pounds. And you know what, actually I was doing some research, and believe it or not, these torque specs have not changed from 2006 to 2020. So the 4th, 5th, and 6th generation are all the same, you know, for the brake caliper torque specs. So I found that kind of interesting that they really didn't change them. So let's take a look at the tools that I used. So what do you need to do this job, guys? Well, you need a number 3 Phillips. Make sure you have number 3 Phillips. You need a 17 mil on the extended ratchet to take off the caliper bracket. You need a 14 mil to take off the caliper from the caliper bracket. 21 takes off the tires. Hammer maybe to get the rotors off if they're a little sticky. And of course, my favorite tool in the world, my caliper spreader. Absolutely love this thing. Now I used a few other things. You saw I took them off with the impact, made it a little faster, but you really don't need that. You don't need to do it. I just do it because, you know, it's a little bit faster, and hey, that's me. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video, and hopefully I will see you next week. Thanks, everyone.